Yes, villagers, it is the month of March. Now, we celebrate and honor women every day, but we're going to give you special recognition in the month of March. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 principles that you need in order for you to raise children. Now, this is not just for women, this is for everybody. Now, I usually talk about 4 things, but today we're going to do 10 principles, because when we're talking about raising children, we're not just talking about raising children, but we're talking about raising a generation. So we're going to put a little bit of extra emphasis on this. So if you have children, thinking about having children, this is the one to watch. So if you're new to this channel, welcome to our village. If you're a returning villager, welcome as well. So let's get into it. Welcome to Garden of the Mind, where we reduce stress, improve our health and fitness, and improve our financial IQ every episode. We must believe more than we see. Now, they say children don't come with an instruction manual, but we've prepared 10 different principles that are helpful for this generation and I believe generations to come. Principle number 1, as a parent, you're always teaching. What is the lesson for your children to learn? I remember there was a poster that said domestic violence can be picked up with this highly tuned instrument, and it showed a picture of a child looking up. And I thought that was an excellent example of how children are highly tuned. They're always learning all the time. Children pay attention to what it is that you do way more than what it is that you say. They sit and watch your actions even when you are not aware that they're watching. I remember my son would watch me and he would imitate me brushing my teeth. And I had no idea that when I was brushing my teeth, I would shake my head like this until I saw him do it. Parents say things like, don't lie. However, when they get a phone call for somebody that they don't want to talk to, they'll tell the child to tell the caller that they are not there. What is the message there? You're telling kids that you don't want them to lie, but you're teaching them to do exactly that. So back in the days, there used to be an old adage that used to say, don't do as I do, do as I say. In this generation, that's a lot harder to do. In all generations, it was difficult, but in this particular generation, it is so much more difficult because the children at this point think they're on the same level as the parents, and it's because of what it is that we're teaching or not teaching. Principle number 2, invest in your child's education. As parents, we want to show the world that we're taking care of our children, and especially when they're small and little babies, we like to decorate them in these nice little outfits and spend so much time in the appearance of our children. But even though those children can't speak, they are learning. So that's the time that we need to read books to them, even while they're in the womb, so when they come out, they are accustomed to hearing language, so when it's time for them to acquire language, they will be so much further along because they're getting that daily practice. But that daily practice can only come from you as the parent doing these things and being consistent. Principle number 3, groom your child to be the person that you want them to be. So if you want your child to nurture you while you're sick, then teach them now to nurture you. Have them bring you a toy that you're saying makes you feel special or helps you with your illness. If you want them to help you out throughout life, have them carry a bag when they come to and from the store, even if it's something small as bread. This teaches them that you are responsible for doing something. So many times do I hear parents who condemn their children and say, this person will never be anything, or this person is good for nothing. Words matter. If you as their parent are thinking this, then what is the child thinking? You as the parent have to supply the soil and the water and nurturance for this fine plant to come up. If this plant is not coming up the way that you want them to, perhaps you should include different practices in your parenting. If you always let your child sit down and watch television, watch the iPad, then that's what they believe is their job. So when it's time to participate in housework or anything, if you don't start them off doing those things, they will never do it. So at the time that they become 18 and you expect them to handle the responsibilities, especially as a male child, it's going to be absent because you never taught them the entire time that they were growing up. They learned that all I have to do is inhale and exhale, and I did a great job. So you have to teach them that life is more than you just inhaling and exhaling and getting a compliment or watching an iPad or a screen, but it's actually responsibility. But those are things that are taught by the parent. So please make sure that you teach them exactly how it is that they're supposed to go. It's never too early to teach a child responsibility. Number 4, parenting is a negotiation. It's not because I'm the parent and I said so, even though sometimes it may have to be, but it can't be that way all the time. You have to negotiate with a child. I think if-then statements are excellent for child rearing. Example, if you eat your vegetables, then you can have dessert. If you read this book, then we can go out to a fast food restaurant. You have to give your child a choice. You can say things like, you can get up now or you can get up later. But if you get up later, we're going to have to rush and we're not going to be able to go to the store. Usually children are great about making choices, and we all start to make choices in our best interest. The earlier that these choices are made, the better that a child becomes at making choices. You don't want little clones of yourself. You want to raise this child to be who God wants them to be, but you want to provide the guidelines for them to get there. Principle number 5. The most expensive thing that you can spend on a child is time. It's not giving money. It's not buying toys. It's not purchasing a whole lot of items so that the child feels wanted. The most important thing is your love. It's you being there on a regular basis. So your time as a parent is worth more than anything. Your love to your child is more than anything. I remember a psychologist friend of mine was telling me a story of how she tested a child and asked the child, if you had 3 wishes, what would they be? The first wish from that child was, I wish my mother would love me. That was one of the saddest things that I've heard. But I think things like that goes to show that it is so important for children to have love from not just from their mother, but from their father as well. As a parent, if you can manage to spend 1 solid hour with your child uninterrupted, no technology, no phone ringing, no outside interruptions, I think your child will be so much better for it. Principle number 6, children crave structure. It's important for us as parents to provide that structure so that children know exactly what to expect after another activity. So for example, they know if they have to wash their hands, it's time to eat. And if they eat their vegetables, then they can have dessert. All of these things are very necessary. One of the easiest ways to start structure is by having and providing a bedtime for your child and a time for your child to wake up every single morning. That also can help you as a parent to keep your sanity, especially if you have young children who require so much of your attention in the early part of the day. If you have a clear bedtime for them, you can have some time for yourself, which is so important. Principle 7, obedience. Obedience should be one of the first lessons that you teach as a parent. One of the things that I say is I teach the children to say yes after I call their name. That way I know that they heard me, I know that they're paying attention, and prepared to listen to any further instructions that I have to give them. There is no place in this world where a person can go without following rules. If you teach your children only to listen to you, then when they're not in your care, they're going to have a really rough time. If you don't train your children to be obedient to not just you, but to the world around, then we failed them. Because this child is going to end up having a very, very tough life, one of plenty of different consequences, because they never received the first lesson, which was obedience. Now, I'm a parent as well. I'm not going to live forever. I know that I have a limited time on this earth to put into my children all that it is that I think that they should have. I know that should I expire, I know that I did everything possible for my children to be productive citizens and God-fearing as well. There was a wonderful movie called Beast of the Southern Wild. Now, when I watched this movie, it was a little abrasive for me, but I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let you take a look at it. It has everything to do with parenting. Principle number 8, you have to teach your children about God. Children have to have a healthy fear of not only parents, but of God as well. Children have to have a fear bigger than themselves, bigger than their parents. They also have to know that their behavior has consequences. Teaching children about God, whatever book you read, helps to ground this child and let them know that they are a part of something, not an entity unto themselves. It teaches them exactly how to live, and it really teaches them how to have a conscience about certain things. In the book of Proverbs, it says, train up a child in the way that they should go, and they shall not depart. Even if a child decides to stray from what it is that they were taught, they usually come back because they now know exactly what it is that is right. That is their measuring stick for how they should behave. Principle number 9, be consistent with your children. So even if you were talking about decision making, if you make a decision, stick to that decision. Don't flip-flop. Children should know exactly what it is to expect from you. They should know if I go ask my mother or my father for this, they should pretty much know exactly what it is to expect from you by what it is that you've done in the past. They should know exactly how you're going to decide on a particular issue because they know what your track record is. And if that is one that is consistent, they know that you're not going to change your mind because that's not something that you normally do. If you decide that you're going to do something, do it. If you decide that you're not going to do it, then don't do it. Don't send children two different messages. Don't say yes and do no, or say no and do yes. Tip number 10, your home should be the example. So if kids want to know whether they should curse, they can look at your home to see whether that behavior normalizes whether they should do it or not. So if they want to know whether they should drink or any other things, they will look at your house to see exactly what you've put in place in your home to determine whether these things are positive, negative, ethical, immoral, all of these things. So even if you've done some things, you may not be able to condone those things in your home because it sends the message to your children that it's okay for these things to happen. Remember, you are not just raising your children, but you are raising your children's children, meaning your grandchildren, because once your children grow up, they're going to look at how they were raised, and that is going to be the blueprint in which they raise their own children. If you've allowed certain things, later on down the line when they're raising their children, you can't now come and interfere and say that's wrong or whatever if this is the way you raised your children. You should always be encouraging in your home. You should also be positive. You should give your kids positive affirmations. You should be mindful of your tone and how you talk to your children as well. They are very impressionable, and most of the times you make the first impression. You as the parent are the first teacher. You're the first doctor. You're the first everything that this child sees. So wield your power very carefully. You can do all of these things 100% and still have a child that turns wayward. As long as you know that you put in your best effort, then it's got to be okay. There is no rule book. There is no 100% recipe that you can use to make sure that you have a perfect child. But you still have to put in your due diligence. Each individual child is different. Even each one of your individual children, if you have more than one, you use one recipe for one child, another recipe for another. If you use the same recipe for both children, one of them may need something else, and you may not be providing that. The most important thing is to apply what is necessary to each child. Know your child and know the needs of your child and try to supply them with that. We've come up with these 10 principles, and we think that they are very, very good. However, I'm sure that you have something to contribute to the village. If there are some principles that you think every child absolutely needs to have, or at least some success that you've had with your child, please put that in the comments. The village would absolutely love it, and so would I. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up. If you like this channel, please subscribe. If you want to know when I post, which is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, please click on that notification bell so that you do not miss a single episode. And remember, thoughts are actions, words have power, and actions have consequences. I'll see you for our Wealthy Wednesdays portion where we'll be talking about money and children. See you then.